Technology has become not just part of life, but the very essence of it. In this near-future New York, artificial intelligence crept into existence. A future where life exists outside of the human womb. Rachel works as an executive for a major tech company that stands at the forefront of futuristic innovations, at Pegazus. Pegazus is responsible for innovations that have transformed how people live, communicate, and even reproduce. After work, Rachel returns home to her husband, Alvy. Alvy is immediately established as her opposite. While Rachel thrives in digital environments, Alvy is deeply connected to nature. He is a botanist and a teacher who spends his days working with plants and trying to instill an appreciation for the natural world in his students. His classroom is filled with greenery, soil trays, and sunlight, offering a stark contrast to the sterile technological spaces seen elsewhere in the film. During dinner at their apartment, the couple discusses their lives and future. Rachel expresses a growing desire to start a family. She speaks confidently and practically, viewing parenthood as the next step in a carefully planned life. Alvy listens with affection but also with visible hesitation. His concerns are not about having a child, but about the world that child would grow up in. He worries about how disconnected society has become from nature and from authentic human experience. Rachel then reveals that she has already taken action. Through her position at Pegazus, she has secured access to the Womb Center, an elite medical facility offering artificial gestation through advanced pod technology. This statement shifts the tone of the conversation. Rachel describes the pod as a revolutionary solution that allows pregnancy without physical strain, career disruption, or traditional biological limitations. To her, it represents equality, control, and progress. Alvy reacts with discomfort. The idea of outsourcing pregnancy to a machine doesn't sit right with him. He sees it as another step away from natural life and human connection. A tense discussion follows, but ultimately, Alvy agrees to explore the option. His decision is driven by love for Rachel rather than belief in the technology. The couple visits the Womb Center, a pristine facility that feels more like a futuristic showroom than a hospital. Rows of softly glowing pods line the space, each containing a developing life. The staff explains the process in calm, rehearsed tones. The pod will carry the embryo externally, regulating temperature, nutrients, and development through artificial intelligence. Parents can monitor progress through an app and interact with the pod at any time. Rachel is visibly excited and reassured by the process. Alvy remains reserved, observing every detail with quiet concern. The embryo is implanted into the pod during a brief, clinical procedure. Once activated, the pod displays early signs of life within its transparent shell. Rachel is overwhelmed with emotion. Alvy places his hand on the pod, unsure of what he is feeling but determined to be present. When the pod is brought home, it quickly becomes a central fixture in their apartment. Rachel integrates it seamlessly into her daily routine. She takes it on walks using its built-in mobility system and brings it to work. Alvy struggles to connect with the pod at first. He views it as a machine rather than a living presence. Over time, however, his resistance softens. He begins spending time beside the pod when Rachel is not home. He talks to it about plants, soil, and the rhythms of nature. He places leaves and flowers nearby, trying to bridge the gap between organic life and artificial creation. One evening, Rachel returns home to find Alvy quietly speaking to the pod. This moment surprises her and reveals a shift in their dynamic. Despite his objections to technology, Alvy is forming a bond with their unborn child in his own way. The pod is no longer just a device. It has become something meaningful. As the pregnancy progresses, the film expands its focus to show how pod technology has transformed society. Advertisements promote artificial experiences designed to replace natural ones. Oxygen pods simulate forest air. Artificial intelligence companions replace therapists and friends. Conflict arises when Pegazus announces a policy update regarding pod gestation. Due to growing demand and resource optimization, pods will now be extracted earlier than originally planned. The decision is framed as safe and beneficial, but it deeply alarms Rachel and Alvy. They worry about the impact on their child and realize how little control they truly have. Rachel attempts to raise concerns, but the system prioritizes efficiency over individual needs. Alvy becomes increasingly vocal about his distrust of Pegazus. Faced with these fears, the couple makes a drastic decision. They take the pod and leave the city. Their destination is Shell Island, a quiet coastal area largely untouched by advanced technology. The journey is long and silent, marked by changing landscapes that gradually replace concrete and screens with open land and ocean air. Upon arriving at the island, they settle into a modest home surrounded by nature. For a brief period, life feels peaceful. Alvy tends to a garden and reconnects with the earth. Rachel adjusts to the slower pace, finding moments of calm she has not experienced before. They care for the pod themselves, free from constant monitoring and corporate oversight. This peace is short-lived. Pegazus tracks the pod's location and responds to its unauthorized removal by remotely disabling its support systems. The pod begins to fail. Its lights flicker, and its interface goes dark. Panic sets in as Rachel realizes the consequences of trusting the system. Without corporate assistance, the pod cannot sustain the pregnancy indefinitely. As the situation becomes critical, Alvy proposes a final solution. The pod must be opened, and the baby delivered without technological mediation. Rachel is terrified, but there is no alternative. In a quiet room, Alvy carefully opens the pod. The process is slow and deliberate. The baby is born alive, fully human, and unmediated by technology. The following morning is calm and reflective. Rachel holds the baby, watching sunlight fill the room. Rachel packs its remains and sends them back to Pegazus without explanation. This small family has chosen a different path.